So hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us, both in person and virtually, for this panel entitled Mediterranean Common Goods, a positive agenda for the future of the broader Mediterranean. My name is Haytham Amira Fernandez, and I am Senior Analyst for the Mediterranean and the Arab world at the Madrid-based think tank Elcano Royal Institute. Today we have the pleasure of having with us four ministers of foreign affairs who devote some time, I guess, of their weekly working agendas to Mediterranean issues, or shall I say, a lot of time, maybe. With us today we have, in the order that they appear in the program, Minister José Manuel Álvarez, Minister of Foreign Affairs, European Union and Cooperation of Spain. Pleasure having you with us. We also have Minister Anže Logar, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Slovenia. Pleasure too. To my right, Minister Augusto Santos Silva, who is the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs of Portugal. Welcome, Minister. And with us, to my left, Minister Gordan Grlić Radman, who is the Foreign and European Affairs Minister of Croatia. I don't know if the broader Middle East is confronted nowadays by unprecedented challenges, but for sure, the multifaceted impact of the pandemic has raised awareness of the urgency to increase cooperation at the regional level and also dialogue on a set of common goods. The need to strengthen peace and security in the Mediterranean and the Middle East as well is a priority challenge in any political agenda nowadays. Additionally, peace and stability are a sine qua non condition for the economic and social development of the region. So without further ado, we will start the conversation with the ministers. You will have 2 rounds. I've been told by the organization it will be 6 minutes each. And I will start in the same order that I introduced you with Minister Álvarez. So last year, Minister, we celebrated the 25th anniversary of the Barcelona Declaration, the Barcelona process that was launched in 1995. One of the most important and imaginative political projects in the promotion of regional cooperation in the Mediterranean, and some would say even in other parts of the world as well. What role is Spain playing right now in the promotion of regional cooperation, and in which regional dossiers is Spain investing more, and not only investing in economic terms for sure, but also its diplomatic capital, and what are the main obstacles and how to overcome them? The floor is yours, Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for moderating this table. First of all, I want to congratulate Minister Di Maio for animating all this and once again putting the Mediterranean community on the table. On Monday, we were all the ministers that we are here, we gathered in Barcelona around Union for the Mediterranean and the meeting EU Southern Neighborhood. There was a record of attendance at minister level, and the discussions were very alive. And the first thing that points out, we start Monday in Barcelona around Union for the Mediterranean. We end the week on Friday here in Rome with the May Dialogue, is that we have a real sense of community. We acknowledge each other as a part of a community, and beyond our bilateral relations, there is something else. There is something that we can only achieve in common. COVID has put even more emphasis in this need of cooperation. Spain animates and participates in all the different groups in which there is a Mediterranean dialogue. Right now, there are very concrete things that we are trying to push forward. First of all, we have to give a definitive answer in our region to COVID-19. In the same way that we put the emphasis in vaccination in each one of our countries, we have to do it together in the region. Therefore, we are putting at access of any Mediterranean country our vaccination doses for donation. The Mediterranean region is one of our priorities for vaccination. So far, we have donated 40 million doses to the COVAX system, and we are ready to do it to any Mediterranean country that needs it. It's not the only region of the world, but this is a priority region. And we are fostering the Union for the Mediterranean that has already a memorandum of understanding with the World Health Organization, push that forward and gets into a dialogue to try to get best practices to end COVID-19 in our region, and at the same time to make a World Health Organization benefiting from what is our experience so far. The second one, climate change. As it is today, the Mediterranean is not sustainable. It's not sustainable economically, socially, but it's not sustainable from a point of view of climate change. Our region is growing its temperature 20% faster than any other region in the planet. We cannot continue like that. And what happens every summer? We see fires everywhere. We've seen it in Turkey, we've seen it in Spain, in Algeria, in Greece during this summer. So we are trying to put together a common mechanism in which we can put our civil service capacities, and this mechanism will be triggered automatically each time that one of us need it and our national civil service capacity is overflowed. And we don't have to be phoning each other quickly and urgently. And the third one is there are many Mediterranean initiatives in which we are, like Monday Barcelona, today here in Rome. There are a lot of ideas, a lot of energies, and a lot of impetus. Let's try to bring all that together. So we are proposing next year to do an international conference in Madrid where all the different bodies that are reflecting and thinking about the Mediterranean come together and create a network that could be directed by Union for the Mediterranean. And instead of talking each one of us on our side, we continue doing it, but at the same time, we put it together to create a great synergy. There is, and this is very well choose, the idea of common goods in the Mediterranean. There is no future for the Mediterranean region if it's not a common future.
Thank you, Mr. Now we move to Mr. Logar. So now, considering the priorities of EU external action set out by the current Slovenian presidency of the Council of the EU, how could strategic autonomy of the Union play a role in promotion of security and prosperity in the Mediterranean region?
Well, I think the answer is that without it, it cannot. So it's one of the main, let's say, turns in the foreign and security policy of European Union is focusing on the African continent. And there are many regions, reasons for that. First of all, it's a continent that has, let's say, a natural alliance to the European continent, being in a positive development and as well in a possibility of negative development. We are one of the biggest donor of development aid. We are not so good in promoting goodwill and good name of the one that is delivering the development aid. And as well, at the same time, whenever there's a question of migration, we are the first destination of the migrants towards the European continent. And if we look, let's say, foreseen evolvement, climate change, and as well birth rate in the African continent, the population until 2050 might double, with the scarcity of basic means that this will trigger an immense migratory move towards the European Union, unsustainable one. And one would then say we have a couple of years or decade in order to find a policy that would in a way correspond to the challenges we all know we have ahead. And if you compare policy or European strategy in dealing with the region, you will see a substantial focus of High Representative and a Foreign Service of European Union to the region, and as well an extensive engagement of us foreign ministers in upgrading the relations with the countries of mainland as well, the countries of other African countries. During Slovenian EU presidency, we held ministerial on EU-African Union relations, which proved that much has to be done as well in the future. And one of the priority of next presidency, French presidency, is organizing the summit on European Union, African Union, with the view to discuss strategical importance of bilateral exchange of the two continents and all the challenges that lies ahead for the European Union and for the countries of African Union. And Mr. Alvarez already mentioned one issue which is now very important one. It's the distribution of vaccines to the region. We keep repeating that until everyone is safe, nobody is safe. But if we look how far we are with deeds, according to those words, we are lagging behind. We said until the end of the year, in the end of this year, we will distribute 200 million doses to African continent. Now we are around 90 millions altogether. We said until the June next year, 2022, we will deliver 500 million doses to the African continent. But now we hear, for example, that China will deliver 1 billion doses into the region. And definitely, we shall speed up our efforts in that sense, according to capabilities we have. And we should use every possibility, every production line of vaccine as well, to have in mind that we shall deliver as well to the vicinity of European Union in order to make our vicinity healthier and to be able to confine this outburst of the COVID that is ahead of us. And from Slovenian point of view, we are refocusing back on the Mediterranean region. This was as well one of the reasons of our orientation towards the Mediterranean countries. We succeeded to persuade our partners from the Mediterranean region to enlarge from Med7 to EU Med9. I'm very grateful for both ministers here for their approval of this initiative. And you can see that we are a well-functioning group of ministers. I mean, we've been together for 6 days, from Sunday to today, and still we can discuss normally, peacefully, in a friendship manner, with more or less the same orientation towards the countries of the MENA region.
As friends do. Thank you very much. Mr. Silva, earlier this year, in May, in the Porto Social Summit, which took place under the Portuguese presidency of the Council of the EU, the main pillar of that summit was to create a synergy for an inclusive, sustainable, fair, and job-creating recovery. My question to you is, in what way could the EU facilitate the same synergies or similar trends and dynamics in order to also help for the recovery of the entire Mediterranean region?
Well, thank you for your question, and thank you for the invitation to be here. I think that it can do and it must do in a very simple and direct manner in what concerns education and training. Education and training is one of the 3 pillars defined during the Porto Social Summit as commitments of all the European member states in order to fulfill some targets from now on until 2030. Education and training means also a great opportunity for more cooperation and better cooperation between the 2 shores of the Mediterranean. You can think of mobility of students, mobility of teachers, mobility of researchers, but also mobility of workers, legally organized, respecting the rights of people, and in order to reinforce the capacities of all the countries in terms of their human capital. So I see there a very important and a very promising area for better cooperation between the two shores of the Mediterranean, between the European Union and the MENA region. And this also allows us to work together in a better way in terms of one of the greatest challenges we face, the digital transition. Because when you think of education and training, of course, you have to think of the generalization, the massification of digital competences, because this will be the work of the future and, of course, the skills of the future. So, helping our friends from the southern Mediterranean countries in reskilling and upskilling their populations is, I would say, a need for us, a moral duty for us, but also an economic opportunity, because if you qualify the workforce of the countries to which you have close economic relationships, you improve the conditions of this economic relationship, meaning investment and trade. One of the main focus of the new agenda of the European Union for the Mediterranean is the economic focus, the investment plan that is so crucial, so central in that agenda. So I see very large room for cooperation in what concerns the human capital, education, training, but also the digital competences we will need in the next future.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Radman, now considering the key position that Croatia holds in the development of a European strategy for the Western Balkans, which role could and should the Balkans play in fostering security and prosperity in the greater Mediterranean region?
Thank you very much, first of all, for this very important question. And I see also the very important and pertinent idea to bring us here together from our dear Minister Luigi Di Maio. I'm really grateful to you, Luigi, for your kind hospitality and for generous idea to organize such a conference that I think that we need it very, very, very much. And also it is a good opportunity to have us here, five, and we are almost 1 week together. First of all, thank you very much, Jose Manuel, Spanish minister, who just brought us to first of all with your airplane to Riga, because we are 1 week we spent in such a different conference, taking part in different conferences. First of all in Barcelona with our south and neighborhood ministers, because it's not only Europe, so we have neighbors, and we have to strengthen our relations with our southern neighbors. And of course, in Riga was the NATO conference, in Stockholm, OSCE, quite a bigger conference with 57 member states. Yes, the Western Balkans, it's in Croatia's immediate neighborhood. We are really interested in bringing the countries to the European Union, to NATO. Several countries are already in NATO. You know, our destiny. We are shared common history in the former Yugoslavia, between Croatia and Slovenia, proclaimed their independence, and we fulfilled our foreign policy goals, namely NATO membership, EU membership, and we would like also to share our expertise also with the Western Balkans. Who more than we, Croatia, because it's really in our immediate neighborhood, wants to have these countries in the European Union. And of course, the enlargement policy is a key, remains key, but we need a stronger political approach to the region. And at the Foreign Affairs Council, we try to have regularly discussions on this very important topic, to show more interest and readiness to assist and to help, because the countries of the Western Balkans are pro-European oriented countries like Croatia is, but of course they have to fulfill all necessary criteria to do this, but it is not easy. Different countries have also different approaches, and you know, the legacy of war, we should first of all should learn from past and looking towards future. Some countries should face the past, and necessary reconciliations is needed. We support dialogue between Pristina and Kosovo. Kosovo is also a country which Croatia recognized. Among the first country Croatia was to recognize independence and sovereignty of Kosovo. And when it comes to North Macedonia and Albania, we also supported their accession negotiations. During EU presidency last year, we organized Western Balkan Summit and provided with a Zagreb Declaration, which we are very, very proud that Zagreb Declaration said that the Western Balkan countries need a European perspective. Of course, they are also Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is more vulnerable, and Bosnia and Herzegovina needs more tensions when it comes to European path. It's a multi-ethnic country, and it's necessary to recognize three constitution people, namely Bosniaks, Serbs, and Croats. It's based on the Dayton-Paris Agreement, 1995. Now the leaders of Bosnia and Herzegovina should change this electoral law just to ensure constituency and legitimate political representation in a collective body like a presidency and House of People. We tried to, during our presidency, we tried also to keep the Europe together, because our slogan was a strong Europe in a world of challenges, but we never meant that the biggest challenge will be a coronavirus pandemic crisis, COVID-19. Our last extraordinary Foreign Affairs Council happened in Zagreb on 6th March, and later on we were just forced to adapt us to the new reality, to the new forms of cooperation, of communication, but really we succeeded, and it's really a big experience. What we needed then at that time, it's a solidarity and to work together. It was a good test for us, how we can just face this situation, which created and caused a big actually a situation that was really making troubles and problems in the European Union. But however, although it was really a big challenge, we succeed and Europe to save our unity and to save our solidarity and European values. I think so. It is very, very important. And when we are go back to your question, actually, in the Mediterranean, there are a lot of things which are connected us to the, as a Mediterranean countries with the Western Balkans. There are also some countries who are Mediterranean countries, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Albania, and Montenegro. Of course, we have also similar social, political, historical heritage, and we have to find a common ground for a cooperation, because all the countries of the Western Balkans are surrounded by the member states of EU and NATO, and they are also included in the whole the format of cooperation. So I think so that Croatia, as a country which share common external common border with Bosnia and Herzegovina, more than 1,000 kilometers, is really interested in having these countries in the European Union. Okay. And all the countries of the European Union support, of course, this approach.
Thank you. Thank you. Now let me go back to Mr. Alvarez, talking about the need to work together. Considering the latest developments in the field of energy cooperation and also in the field of management of migration flows, what priorities should, in your opinion, a structured cooperation have between the two shores of the Mediterranean to address these dossiers?
What's very interesting about these two dossiers, energy and migration, is that they are the current proof that we cannot live back to back on both sides of the Mediterranean region. That the synergies that we create are not only mutually beneficial for both of us, the north part of the Mediterranean and the south part, but they are absolutely necessary. If you take energy, you have the resources in one side and the capabilities for managing and channeling the resources on the other, and the need to get them. So let's go back to the title of the panel, common goods. This, if we make a common good out of this, we will get the best of our cooperation. If not, it will be always a source of discussion. So looking forward, because of the sustainability of the region from an environmental point of view, in which we will have to push farther and farther to clean energies, to renewable energies, because the need, and we see it in Spain today with the gas that comes from Algeria, the natural resources in one side and the demand in the other, and the rising price in the whole world. And because we have to face the degradation of the Mediterranean Sea and the increase of the temperatures in the whole region, for all those reasons, we need to create a common understanding of how we approach the energetic situation. Exactly the same thing in migration. As long as the differences in revenue, education, health, death expectancy in one side and the other of the Mediterranean remain as they are, we will see irregular migration flows. And I have to remember that although that's a big subject that we have to tackle, migration is not only irregular migration flows, but if we take that one, we have to make, and as Spain has been doing it for many years already, good pacts and agreements with the transitory countries of migration to help them to develop, to help them to fight illegal trafficking of human beings that is totally unacceptable. And today, we see right now in this last few weeks in the border of Belarus, we see the complexity of irregular migration flows and the temptation of making a political use of those irregular flows, which is completely unacceptable, and European Union will never accept it. And this is something that could happen also tomorrow in the southern border of the European Union if we do not create this good engagement and this positive engagement. And at the end, both of them will help to solve some of the conflicts that we see today in the region. We are used to manage those conflicts. if we tackle irregular migration, the root causes of irregular migration with development, and if we create a good partnership in energy, we can foster a virtuous relation that will help to put an end and to give a solution to some of those conflicts that for many decades we are just managing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Let me go back also to Mr. Logar. So as demonstrated in the latest EU Foreign Affairs Council of Development Ministers, Slovenia has been playing a key role in implementing a coherent EU water development or diplomacy, EU water diplomacy. What should be the EU priorities, in your opinion, to implement a long-term strategy aimed at protecting some of the strategic common goods in one of the most water-scarce regions of the world, which is the Mediterranean?
Well, Slovenia is one of the rare, if not only, country that has a right to clean drinking water in the constitution. So it's a constitutional right protected by the highest legislative act in the country. I guess we are lucky that we can afford this, to have it in constitution. There are many countries in the world, especially in the African continent, that has not the luxury of doing that. And this is one of the questions for keeping the development potential of the region, of the continent, and as well to find the project that will help to develop the region in the sense that the living condition will sustain the pressure of the natural growth and as well of the economical growth of the countries. Well, if we look this in a perspective of recent Glasgow COP26 meeting, where there was an alarming voices regarding the global change, and as Minister Di Maio already expressed in his inaugural speech today about the continent of Africa is warming up 20% higher than other region. It's 5 minutes before 12 in order to act. And how to act, it's combine all the policies we have. And I think Mr. Alvarez made a very good point of connecting migration and energy. I think the energy is the issue of African continent. And it is the issue how to use all means and resources we have in order to retain and enable a normal living condition in the African continent. If you look the summertime this year, José Manuel will be able to tell you that the prices of energy soared in Madrid because of the very hot summer and everybody used the air conditions. Now transpose this in the African region, which is even more difficult issue. We have a technology and we have, let's say, science that is able to developing new way of promoting the green energy, where it's hydrogen, green hydrogen. There are many projects of European Investment Bank, and a lot of funds are available for the project that would enable produce or to build an African continent as an energy hub for European Union or for European continent. And if you speak with, for example, with our Greek friend, they already sees this, and they're investing heavily in connecting themselves to the grid in the northern African region for the solar plant. Egypt just built the biggest solar power plant in the continent, overcome the Moroccan one. And this is one of these strategic questions of European Union that is calling now heavy investment now in order to gain or regain strategic autonomy, what we are not having now, being too dependent on a gas from some other region. So ahead of us, it's a very delicate period where we will be able, with different projects together, invest in the region that will pay off in decades or 2 or 3 to come. But without this, we will have such a severe problem if we do not act now, that talks then regarding the strategy and, let's say, strategic sovereignty will be just, let's say, empty phrases.
Thank you. Thank you for also reminding us of the need for the long-term vision, which is part of what this whole conference is about. Minister Silva, so during the Portuguese presidency of the Council, the EU presented the new agenda for the Mediterranean. Almost 1 year later, how do you assess the implementation of this new agenda? And how could its priorities help in the creation of a long-lasting, values-based political and economic cooperation in the Mediterranean?
Well, I will start by the good news. First good news, the existence of the agenda as a new strategy of the European Union towards the North African area, towards its southern neighborhood. This new agenda was presented by the High Representative and the Commission and endorsed with conclusions of the Council. So it is our common strategy towards the MENA region. Second good news, the agenda is very clear in its focus and in its institutional background. First of all, the importance of holding regular ministerial meetings between the European Union and its southern partners. We had the third one last Monday in Barcelona with a high level of attendance both of European and African and Middle East countries. So it is very important to improve the institutional platforms by which we can develop regular positive dialogue between the two shores of the Mediterranean. Third good news, the emphasis that we put in the new agenda in investment, in the economic relations. Because there is an obvious complementarity between the two shores in terms of economy and energy. We have the capital, we have the technology. Our friends from North Africa have the most valuable factor, human capital, workforce, youngsters, human resources, and they also have incredible natural resources. If you think of energy, as Ansha just said, it is obvious that we have to work together in order to implement renewable energy. The capacity of North African countries in terms of solar energy or wind energy are crucial for us and for our green transition. This for the good news. We have already also our financial instrument, the Global Europe program. Not so good news. The rhythm of this, we had to be more rapid than we are being, because we live all together around the Mediterranean in some need of addressing the challenge of the economic recovery, need to address the challenge of the COVID and the combat against COVID, and need to address this major challenge that is the future of millions and millions of youngsters that we need to train, to educate, and to which we need to provide jobs. So we have the instruments, we have the structure, we have the emphasis, it's time to deliver.
Thank you.
And we are quite a bit late in delivering.
Okay, thank you. And you also raised the issue of placing people at the heart of responding to the needs and challenges. Minister Radman, the COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated the fragilities of national borders, especially in the face of transnational threats, both man-made and non-man-made transnational threats. What conclusions should we draw from this in terms of regional cooperation? And what consequences could such cooperation have on the stability of the Mediterranean region?
Thank you very much. So once again, I would like to emphasize how important was to show solidarity, because it was not expected, so such a challenge, and that upended our lives, changed our lives, and made or put a great pressure not only on health system, and of course to find innovative way, and when it comes to border, to cross-border dimensions of this epidemic, prompt us to find really a cutting-edge solution to overcome and to function actually because every country is differ in a health system, and with some with approach how to deal with, and so ever growing, of course, security challenges as well. In the past year, also the pandemic costs Croatia 1/5 of the state budget, but however, we have demonstrated ability to cope with the less economic and social cost, and our national recovery and resilience plan till 2030 contains ambitious but achievable reform and investments goals, the implementation of which is, of course, crucial for Croatia's faster recovery. And the health and safety for our citizens also depend greatly on the situation in other countries, especially our neighbors like in the Western Balkans. Of course, as a neighboring member state, Croatia has strategic interest in the strengthening overall resilience of the Western Balkans region, and of course, as I mentioned also in the first question, you put it in progression along the EU. Of course, once again, the pandemic crisis served as an opportunity to show unity and solidarity. It is really important, as Anja also mentioned. So far, in spring 2021, we provided first bilateral donation to the countries of the Western Balkans. So far, we have allocated more than 1.8 million vaccine doses worldwide. Croatia also donated 1.33 million doses of vaccine to the COVAX mechanism, and we remain committed to donating vaccine surpluses with particular focus on our neighbors. But when it comes to what is actually the conclusions, lesson learned, it's very important to know that actually that to boost region economic growth and to accelerate its convergence with the EU in this region. This includes, of course, much needed reforms in key areas such as the rule of law, judiciary, fight against corruption and organized crime, and of course democratic institutions. Of course, that we are ready to assist these countries of the Western Balkans region, both bilaterally and through existing regional fora. In that sense, also knowledge sharing, both regional and internal sectoral, especially in the area of scientific research and health sector, is crucial for a more coherent response and anticipation of all the adverse consequences arising for this or any similar crisis. Of course, regional organizations play their part as a bridge between the regional and national policy levels, including fostering and the international cooperation. Indeed, crises like the pandemic come as a test of our common vision and resilience. Resolving them successfully requires scale, decisive action, and coordinated approach, both by the governments and business, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. In the 10 minutes left, I would like to ask the four ministers, take advantage of being surrounded by four ministers of Mediterranean countries. We all know that Portugal is a Mediterranean country. Were we to meet in Rome Med 2022, what needs to happen in the meantime, from now until then, to consider it that it was a good Mediterranean year? And what are the fears or the things that you don't want to see, that if they happen, we can call that a bad Mediterranean year? Let me ask you maybe in a minute and a half and 2 minutes, and in the reverse order, if you'd like to do a little bit of imagination exercise and share with us. Mr. Radman.
Sure, we should use the opportunity to actively work together to improve connectivity, cooperation, communication, joint activities, just as this conference, this panel says, greater or common good, and by promoting actually our common values, interests, and of all sides involved. Be also in trilateral, for example, Italy, Slovenia, and Croatia. We improve this trialogue when it comes protection of Adriatic Sea. We proclaimed also exclusive economic zone, and we work together to improve, to find fields of common interest like connectivity, blue economy, and environment. And recently, Croatia and Slovenia also became the members of the Med 7, now Med 9. So there are so many fields of the common interest, how we can protect the Adriatic Sea, but Mediterranean Sea as well. It's a common value. To find, of course, the solar expansion zone where in the sea to protect also fish and the biodiversity. It's really important. It's a European actually approach, and we show that so we can do, we three countries, it's a paradigm also of the good cooperation.
Thank you. What would a good Mediterranean year be for Minister Silva?
Well, personally, I have a long list of wishes. First of all, the elections in Libya to be held next 24th. And Libya can find a government and a president and an institutional normal routine. Secondly, the resumption of direct negotiations between Israel and Palestine. Third, the wish that we both, the European Union and Turkey, can find a way of dealing with our common issues in a normal and a productive manner. Fourth, Morocco and Algeria to resume bilateral diplomatic relations and find diplomatic means to solve their problems. Fifth, the Maghreb region should find a higher level of regional integration, since it is one of the regions in the world with less regional integration. And sixth, we Europeans lecture less and work better with our common friends of the southern shore of the Mediterranean.
Thank you for that 6-point list. Maybe for Santa, we can ask, and hopefully he could deliver. Mr. Logan, a good Mediterranean year, how would it look like?
Yeah, well, I wonder whom you thought at the beginning of your last question when you said there are 4 Mediterranean countries and Portugal is definitely Mediterranean. Well, we are all, and I think there should be something to add to that list. I agree with Augusto. And I think in a year ahead, we can sincerely, with effort, achieve very comprehensive bilateral agreement with 8 countries of our Southern Partnership. We can hire the relation with those countries. We can as well, with some effort and luck, agree on new asylum and migration directive, which is, I think, of utmost importance. And as well, we can combine all policies that European Union has in its hand in order to tackle the challenges that are ahead. For example, in the case of Slovenia, well, it's rather not so big country, but still with the development aid, we are focusing on evolving and developing entrepreneurial skills in the region of North Africa. For example, we are bringing some entrepreneurial young people to Slovenia to learn make chocolate. I know you would say that this is not really right. It would be better if you learn them to do ice cream. But still, there is a very tendency with all of us that each country can, with development aid, definitely make a substantial changement in developing the country in the region with its own people in order to build this confidence in bringing and developing their economy at their soil.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Alvarez, what would the Mediterranean good year look like to you?
Definitely making of our region the main region of vaccination in both parts of the Mediterranean to help us to eradicate definitely COVID. Introducing digitalization at the same level in a school in both sides to make of digitalization the new way of connectivity among us. Trying to be rapid to control the fires that certainly next summer will be there waiting for us. And finally, sitting around the tables, those that should be talking to each other instead of thinking how to get even more away from each other. So we can get not only, as I said before, to manage some conflicts, but to really solving them. I think if we do those 4 things, we will get the Mediterranean to be our common sea and not the barrier among us, the north and the south.
So given that we still have 2 minutes, when we talk about shared values and interests, the interests can be easy to detect. What shared values you believe that the Mediterranean could have, Mediterranean countries, in order to get to that good Mediterranean year in 2022? Minister, the shared values that should be at the heart of such project together.
Of course, I see that. So we improving with every day with communication, with the cooperation. We discover the fields of common interest, and to bring also the southern neighborhood, bring closely to the European Union. It's in our focus. And for example, there are many issues, topics of common interest that so we can face and deal together, like illegal migration, like the building a better traffic infrastructure, as I mentioned, connectivity, and of course the democracy, the human rights, Rule of law, again, there are so many important issues to where we see on a common platform, common ground. You know that the world order is so vulnerable, and we should just so peace, stability, security. There are for them there are no alternative, and it's up to us to ensure our people, our citizens, to live in peace, in stability and security, and we are responsible for that.
Thank you. Some shared values that we can build on.
Well, since all of us in the Mediterranean, we are sons of Athens, Alexandria, and Rome, I would say respect for human dignity and the sense of citizenship.
Thank you. To the point.
Well, you can deepen the division, or you can try to solve the problem. So I find it's shared value or mutual interest that we both see the mutual interest that we progress towards better future. And if we all have this in mind, it might not be the same speed, but the direction is the same.
Thank you.
It could be that accepting our common diversity, and even more, accepting that our diversity is actually the strength of the Mediterranean, and looking for progress. And progress today has only one name: fair economic recovery.
I have to say that after a full week, the ministers being together, we still managed to get an interesting debate, great ideas that were presented by the ministers here. I thank you very much for this, and hopefully, if we meet, and hopefully we meet in Rome 2022, let's hope for a good Mediterranean year. Please join me all in a round of applause to all the speakers.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seat as we are going to start the last session of today's Day of May.
everyone, and good evening, Chu Donju, Secretary General of what we call in Italian FAO.
The English are called FAO.
FAO. Everyone knows FAO. It's such important for old world, but especially talking about the Mediterranean area. So let me introduce the other two distinguished guests that are with us tonight. Miguel Angel Moratinos, High Representative of the United Nations Alliance of Civilization. Good evening, Mr. Moratinos. And Ernesto Ottone Ramirez, Assistant Director General of the UNESCO. Welcome.
Thank you.
I would like you can enjoy the interesting evening we had here in Rome, but it will be a pleasure to have you anyway. Okay, let me say a few key words. Health, mobility, social cohesion, sustainable tourism, tangible cultural heritage. These key words are the topic on which we'll concentrate in today's panel entitled Education, Culture and Tradition, Common Goods for an Inclusive Recovery. Education is something that is very important to me as a journalist and as a member of the Superior Council of Education of the Minister of Education in Italy. And we already listened to the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs of Portugal, Mr. Silva, who talked about education as the bridge, the link for all the Mediterranean area. So let me start with you, Mr. Donju. Considering the extreme fragility of the Mediterranean region, which priorities should the regional post-pandemic recovery address first? I mean, in terms of food security and in terms of impact that they have on the regional stability.
Okay, it's a very important question. During past years, especially during past 20 months due to the pandemic, and we are suffering from the crisis and also food insecurity. And the Mediterranean regions, you are so diverse in culture, religion, and also the economic development stage. You have advanced development countries on the north, and you have less developed part on the south and even the other regions on the east. But one thing is common. From the point of view agro-food systems. You know, all the civilization in Mediterranean region, you join the one big common characteristic is Mediterranean weather, Mediterranean biodiversity, Mediterranean diets, Mediterranean food, of course. So if we talk one common is not only education. Education is so different in different countries, but the Mediterranean food, Mediterranean weather are very common in the world. Everyone talk about what it means. Mediterranean weather is mixed with tropical and subtropical, and also dry. Mediterranean food, you are dependent on Mediterranean seafood is dominant. And then with healthy food, you enjoy so much diversity of food, and fruit, vegetables, and others. So And Mediterranean food also, it's quite a long history from Egyptian or Greek or Roman time. So you inherit it. That's one of the most advantage, comparable advantage globally. Look at the issue. So post-pandemic, how to recover? You have to use this comparable advantage to unleash the potential. How to unleash the potential? That's a real common goods, common agenda to work with. And that's I appreciate the Italian government and take the G20 presidency, look at the issues related to food security. And for the region, and we not only need the energetic food, and also we need those healthy food. That is your comparable competitiveness for all the members of this region. So how to transform agriculture in this region to be more competitive, that's a big issue.
Big issues indeed. Well, I'm going to Ernesto Tone Ramirez, the Assistant Director General of UNESCO. I know Mr. Ramirez should leave by 7, but I assure that by 7 we'll end our debate. And I was stressing the importance of bridge among the countries of the Mediterranean area, also considering both the critical consequences of climate change and the widespread political instability was already mentioned in the previous debate. So my question, Mr. Ramirez, is which are the main challenges for the protection of cultural heritage in the region, and what role international organization as UNESCO playing in the region?
Okay, first of all, thank you for the invitation. As you know, well, you've been talking about it, the COVID-19 pandemic has starkly exposed the shared vulnerability of countries in facing emergency situations. Moreover, global challenges such as growing inequalities, enhanced mobility and forced displacement of individuals, conflicts, the accelerated technological transition, and climate change, as you mentioned, have pushed countries to adapt their public policies to better fulfill their role in ensuring the provision of global public goods. At a time when the challenges we are facing are increasingly global in scale, it is clear that we need culture more than ever to sustain the fabric of our societies. Culture should be understood as an asset for social cohesion and stability that can reduce communities' vulnerability to external shocks, enhancing people resilience, and that's the word that we have been hearing the most in the last 1.5 years, rather than be perceived as a threat or a source of division. We need more than ever to build on the power of culture to unite people and to strengthen moral solidarity and international cultural cooperation. The nexus between culture and sustainable development has gained clear recognition for its role in supporting continuity, participation, employment, and also well-being, while also effectively generating social development and economic growth. This momentum was further strengthened by global policy process led, supported by UNESCO, towards a stronger commitment to culture-led multilateral dialogue. The unprecedented inclusion of culture in the G20 under the presidency of Italy marked a major step forward. This dynamic is also supported at regional level, and the Mediterranean region, through key initiative, provides a powerful example of steadfast commitment and political will. In the past few years, UNESCO and countries in the Mediterranean region have stepped up profiling culture as a vehicle for cultural diplomacy and international cooperation. Food has gradually become an important element of cultural policy and cultural diplomacy, enhancing intercultural dialogue and valorization national and local practices related to cultural, natural, and living heritage for sustainability at the local level. We believe that both culture and food lie at the heart of the UN Sustainable Development Agenda and contribute to curbing poverty, ensuring climate sustainability, and sustainable livelihoods. The, it was mentioned, the Mediterranean diet is an example of how culture contributes to the livelihoods of population and communities, protecting but also preserving cultural and biological diversity, while at the same time bolstering dialogue, creativity, hospitality, and what we call sustainable tourism. The inscription of the Mediterranean diet in the UNESCO representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity was the result of shared vision of 6 countries, notably Cyprus, Croatia, Spain, Greece, Italy, and Portugal. And it was the moment to leverage food for intercultural dialogue. So equally, the knowledge, know-how, and practices related to the production and consumption of couscous have also been inscribed last year in 2020 on this list. And you had Algeria, Mauritania, Morocco, and Tunisia that share the same cultural tradition. These initiatives are triggering effective synergy across several policy areas, such as, and you mentioned, education, decent work, social inclusion, facilitating multi-stakeholder partnership across the public and also the private sector, and integrating civil society. So the long-lasting and deep interdependence between Mediterranean countries has prompted Mediterranean countries to forge common responses and creative solutions to transnational phenomena affecting the region. However, climate change remains the defining challenge of our time, and the role of culture in climate action is still underestimated and underutilized. So UNESCO has been stepping up its effort, bringing together experts, international partners, and civil society to explore effective steps to enhance the role of cultural and natural heritage for climate adaptation and mitigation. We could speak the whole night on this issue, but we really believe that culture is both a driver and an enabler of sustainable development. It expands opportunities and pathways across all public policy areas. We hope that this dialogues initiative will nurture a global reflection on culture as a universal public good, promoting universal access through enhanced cultural cooperation and more robust policy. And only to finish, looking forward, this reflection will pave the way towards the UNESCO World Conference on Culture Policy, Mondiacult 2022, that will be hosted by the government of Mexico in September next year. So this conference will provide new impetus for the global policy dialogue on culture for people-centered development models. Thank you.
Thank you. And we strongly hope that the conference in Mexico will have a free moment, and I mean free from COVID moment. But as we have listened, both our hosts stressed the link between food, culture, cultural heritage, education. And now I'm going to Miguel Angel Moratinos, the High Representative for United Nations Alliance of Civilization. And now I'm going to ask something about education, because we can't consider education not a crucial link, a bridge building a new agenda based on common goods. Education is a key word, isn't it, Mr. Moratinos?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate again in this Roma Med dialogue. I've been there 2 years ago in person. I'm missing not to be with you and enjoying the warm hospitality of our Italian friends. And thank you to Minister Di Maio and Italian Institute of International Political Studies to convene this meeting. And most of all, because you continue to include the cultural and spiritual and tradition element in the international agenda. That are absolutely essential. I think my colleague from UNESCO has referred to that, but I want to underline the importance of having this cultural and spiritual, religious, traditional element in order to understand the complexity of today's society. So before I'm going to answer your concrete question, education, I thought it's going to be a second question, but I don't know if it is the time will allow us to do so. Let me concentrate at what I consider has been, the conclusion of this terrific pandemic that we are suffering of COVID-19. And what is going on in our society, in the Mediterranean societies? COVID-19 only exacerbates what already was present in this society. There was present among ourselves in the Mediterranean this sense of discrimination, xenophobia, exclusion, rejection, identities not well understood. And then with COVID-19, after a very short period of what we can call declaratory solidarity, you remember everybody going to the balconies and making clapping in order to protect the nurses. Then immediately we went for this kind of disruption of a social fabric. We started to, here in the United States, we see how Black Lives Matter started. Then later on, there was an anti-Asian, movement against the Asian communities. Then even there was anti-Semitism because people have the conspiracy theory about the Jews being behind the virus. So we were confronting this, let's say, exclusive society, putting break and distancing, not only social distancing for health, religion, but putting social distancing because we were different. We are not accepting, to live together. So what are the conclusions of COVID-19? The first one is that we are one humanity. And that's the theme of this panel of Common Good fits very well. And everybody understands that COVID has no border, has no frontier, has no any element. We are all affected by that. So we are common humanity, we have to address that. And second, as you mentioned in your key words, you say about the social cohesion. Mm-hmm. Well, I think what COVID-19 has demonstrated, we need to really rebuild a social contract. And this social contract have to be based not only in economic, social, and development. You have to introduce in this social contract elements of multiculturalism, of cultural diversity, of respecting, the religion, faith of everybody, and trying to maintain these common values that will agree all of us to live together. So that is what is really at stake in this Mediterranean common ground. I think Secretary General Guterres of the United Nations have already started the common agenda, our common agenda. In this common agenda, he has calling for a social contract. Well, my dear friend, we have to start to work on that and introducing that this cultural diversity. Of course, we have to fight against climate change. Of course, we have to gather all of us, to protect the planet. But at the end of the day, we also have to really maintain this diversity. Pope Francis now in Cyprus yesterday create a very clear support of the word diversity, of behavior of diversity. It's an enrichment of all of us. And so we have to work for that. So why not, my dear friend, to really, as the representative director general of FAO has said, we have this common ground in the Mediterranean about biodiversity, okay? Why you don't create a new concept that is called diversity? Why you don't put up on the agenda the need to respect the cultural diversity for all humankind, and particularly in the Mediterranean. So if I have more time, I can reflect about youth education because I have
we have a few minutes, and education is certainly a key point of this debate. So please, go ahead. I'm curious.
So I go to education. Well, and I'm going to concentrate on Mediterranean because we are in the Mediterranean dialogue. So I've been working for Mediterranean strategy so many years. So I was pleased to listen to the minister, my compatriots from the Iberian Peninsula and other ministers. But I think we are now at a crucial moment in the Mediterranean. There are three options. There is one option that will clash ourselves, the south and the north. Nobody wants that. There is a second option that unfortunately is taking certain shape. It is let's live side by side. We coexist. We don't have the same objective, the same horizon, the same project, or we try to live together. That is, I think, what the minister and everybody and myself want to do. How we are going to live together? We have to create a momentum and a critical mass of thought about what is our common values. And what the previous panel discussed about sharing value, there is a kind of, I will say, reluctance to go to the real concern element, because it's true, we have a diversity, and the foreign Spanish ministers say a common diversity. That is what we have. And how we are going to do so? Through education. The only way to really have a common engagement of all our societies towards a common goal is because if we educate our youth with the same values, values that include diversity in culture, in religions, in faith, and that is the way. So we are going to concentrate our effort, United Nations Alliance of Civilization. We are having a project for next year to have a big conference in Malta between the Union for the Mediterranean, Aladdin Foundation, and ourselves in order to gather the majority of the youth of the Mediterranean that are going to be the protagonists of the future. If we have these youth believe in a common Mediterranean thinking, a common Mediterranean behavior, a common Mediterranean values, we will succeed. If not, we will continue to have European strategy, North African strategy, conflict here and there will be not a common. So the time has come for a common strategy, not only the Europeans that we come and we dictate and we decide that will be good for you. No, that time is over. We have to go together. And how we are going to do so? Through education. And how? Through the new generation, the youth that have to take the lead in this new adventure for peace and stability in the region.
Thank you, Mr. Moratinos. And I can assure our floor is full of young people, and it's energy coming from them. So you have listened, Mr. Moratinos. I know that your first interest is talking about the role of an organization like FAO can play from the problem of agriculture, of course, to the problem of fishery. But if you want to add a few words and comment to what Mr. Moratinos says, you are free.
Okay, thank you. You know, I really enjoy what they are talking about, the common agenda and the common prosperity of Mediterranean Sea. You know, Mediterranean should become the prosperity sea. And prosperity sea started with understanding different culture and religions. I really enjoy what he proposed. You need one strategic framework for Mediterranean, more inclusive and more understanding. Because look, our ancestors 2,000 years ago, even 4,000 years ago, you share the more common agenda than now. Because I'm from China, I look at your long history here, this Mediterranean history. I visited most of the country around the Mediterranean Sea during past years. So education, and I think a common strategic framework. Second, third, I think you need to really have a shared development objectives. Otherwise, you are divided by geopolitically, by different religion, different culture. And the Mediterranean Sea will be only the sea in nature. But what we expect, Mediterranean Sea should be shared with the common prosperity.
The Sea of Prosperity, said Secretary General Chu Dongju. And we are at the end of our panel, and I would like to ask to Ernesto Tone Ramirez to add his final comment to this evening.
Well, thank you. I cannot be more in agreement with what has said Miguel Angel and Mr. Chu. If we don't integrate youth in the discussion, if we don't integrate civil society that are on the ground, that are right now living what is this pandemic, and we don't include this discussion in our meetings, in our policy making levels, we will lose the opportunity that we have right now. And I cannot be more in accordance. What is important is to understand that education and culture are together. We cannot separate them. And today, when we see the most difficult time in the countries where there is explosion of disruption of social cohesion, is when those two elements has not been integrated in the way that they should have been. And when you see what is happening right now all around the world, it means that somehow we are not listening what is happening with our environment, with our societies, and somehow it's the moment after this pandemic that we are living it right now to find new ways of doing things, to build better, as it's said by Secretary General of the UN, but also to build in another way. And that's what I can take of what I heard today with the foreign ministers and in this meeting. So I have hope that we're gonna change the way that we are trying to build our new world. So thank you so much for the invitation for the Foreign Affairs. It has been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure for us. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramirez. Thank you, Mr. Moratinos. Thank you, Secretary General Dongju. And thank you, everyone, for being with us and listening till now. Good night.
Thank you. Director General. We didn't call the Secretary General, so we are FLDG. So,
DG.
So otherwise they will say,
you're right, you're right.
Thank you. And,
Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.